Hey there and welcome back. This is our 2024 Major League Soccer preview series, and today we are talking about the New York Red Bulls. Back with a longtime friend, Mark Fishkin of the Seeing Red podcast. Mark, how you doing?
I've never been better. This is it, man. This is what I've been excited about this all day. I can't wait.
We are excited too. Always excited to talk about the hometown team. Now, three of us here are longtime Red Bull fans and season ticket holders, and then there's Scott with his outside RSL opinions. But he's the best X's and O guys in. One of the best X's and O guys in the game, so he has, kind of a unique understanding of what's going on the field here. So love to hear what he has to contribute later too. So I guess we get right into it now. There we go. Graphics work on this show. Today we're talking about the New York Red Bulls, and let's start out with a brief recap of what happened during last season. They were 11-10-13 in the regular season with a -3 goal differential. They did win their last 3 games and made it into the playoffs to continue that long-running streak. They won a playoff game. They beat Charlotte 5-2 in the first round and then lost to Cincinnati, both games in that strange home and away leg. I guess there would have been 3 games in the second round. So that happened there. 39 goals allowed, tied for second best. This was an elite defense last season. 36 goals. 4 was 4th worst in the East. Kind of the story of the season was putting a lot of, keeping the opponent out of the net and not putting enough in ourselves. There were some big storylines. There were distractions and controversy over on-field comments by new designated player striker Dante Van Zier, which led to the coach being fired, Troy Lesane take over. It was a bad start, a rough summer, and kind of a strong finish. Mark, when we talk about the 2023 New York Red Bulls, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, 2023 was a year where New York was a really tough out. Consider for a minute that every one of their competitions ended in penalty kicks, right? They went out to Cincinnati in the Open Cup in the round of 16 on penalty kicks. They went out to Philadelphia in the U.S. Open Cup, in the Leagues Cup over the summer in penalty kicks, and they wound up being eliminated in an absolutely wackadoo second leg playoff series in penalty kicks. This is a team that, as I think you had mentioned above, if they were able to get 7 to 10 more goals over the course of the season, they would have been in a much better place. It was another season where New York did not necessarily invest wisely during the year. Bringing in a player like Dante Van Zier, I think, was a good step, but obviously he had a bunch of challenges over the course of 2023, wound up getting injured and out. The team desperately missed Lewis Morgan, who was the team's leading scorer in 2022. And they gave Troy Lesane the job 11 games into the MLS season, and he did an incredible job resetting the team culture and getting them to believe in themselves. But at the beginning and end of the day, they're not an elite team as they stepped off the field at the end of last season. They were a scrappy team that won a lot of games ugly. And, they got over the line in an unbelievable finish in Nashville on decision day. I think the latest decision day goal ever scored in the league, a 94th minute penalty kick by John Tolkien, gets them into the playoffs for the 13th straight year. And, it wasn't a great year. There were parts of the year that were really, really bad. But at the end of the day, they did no better or worse than any of the teams, the 3 previous teams before them. So just another year of kind of wandering in the desert with some high points and low points for me.
Absolutely. Alex, now
if
we had to play the card,
Mark just nailed it. Mark just nailed it. I mean, that was just perfectly. You just wrapped up the season perfectly. I usually have a lot to say, Mark, man. You took the words right out of my mouth. That was perfectly done. Perfectly.
I think if we had to play our roles, I would be like the optimist, Alex, would he be like the extreme pessimist, like the beaten,
Yes.
downtrodden? And Mark, you're kind of the cooler head that needs to prevail, I guess, during this episode. So let's go and talk about exactly who those contributors were. You had Elias Manuel, 6 goals, 3 assists. Omir Fernandez, 6 goals and 3 assists. Frankie Amaya, 5 goals. Tom Barlow, 5 goals, 2 assists. John Solkin, 4 goals, 8 assists. Lukinas with 3 goals and 3 assists. I have pronounced that name perfectly 1,000 times, but it's not coming out today. But you know what? He's out, so we don't need to learn how to pronounce his name anyway. Cameron Harper, 2 goals, 2 assists. That's a problem. No one scores more than 6 goals for your team. Elias Manuel, when he did score, I think it was like a hat trick in a single game. So even his numbers kind of seem inflated. This team was missing a number 9. This team is still missing a number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're missing an effective number 9. I think
that's fair. There are plenty of numbers.
Yes.
If Dante Vanzier comes off the mat this year, ready to go, if Elias does what he was doing at the end of 2023 and becomes a somewhat trusted goal scorer, if he can get to 10 during the regular season next year, I think Red Bull fans will be very happy with the young player as he matures. And Vanzier, when he arrived, said, I want 15. I don't know how many years he's going to take to get there, but if he can get a little bit closer this year, and if we have Emil Forsberg pulling the strings, certainly better service than he has received during anything in 2023. So, they do have, we're on the side now. Okay. We do have the forwards. I got to get closer. My head is kind of like.
Sorry. You're getting crunched out here.
Yeah, that's better.
We can do that too.
Okay. Oh, that's better. Thank you. We do have forwards on the team. We just need to actually unlock the attack. And, I think what we've seen so far during 3 preseason games should give fans some reason for optimism. Of course, it is preseason and you're not playing teams that are in a ready to go mode, but at least they're finding the back of the net so far.
Even if it's spring training, scoring is better than not scoring, especially when that's what we're looking at. That is what needs to be fixed on this team. Now, let's go quickly. Team MVP.
Please, someone else take it.
You're talking about last year or this year?
Last year, team MVP from last year.
John Tolkien. I mean, that's I think pretty easy to say. I think we all can agree. John Tolkien, national stage recognition, left back league, flies down the wing with his hair, color, style, different, whatever it is you want to call it. Listen, he's a competitive guy, one of the best left backs in the league, and the sky's the limit for this guy. It's only a matter of time before he jumps into Europe, in my opinion.
He sent you to the playoffs with that penalty as a young player playing left back. Is that on its own not enough for him to be the team MVP? That such a young player is trusted in that moment and delivers? Huge. For me, huge.
Yeah, he was the Seeing Red Bull of the Year in 2023, and it wasn't really close. And I just want to say the wild card or the play-in game, the wild card game that the team had against Charlotte, where Manuel had a hat trick and New York romped. They hit for 5 in a playoff game for the first time ever. And being in Red Bull Arena for that match was a feeling, honestly, that I have never felt before, in that every game that this team had played, really seemingly for a very long time, was everything was tight. Everything was, a whisker here or there and disaster hit. And they came out and played the embodiment of what Troy Lesesne wanted them to play. Yes, Charlotte got some goals and made it a little interesting. But the fact of the matter is New York came in and blew them out in a playoff game. And the feeling was, it was giddiness. It took me back to the 2013 Shield game after we were up like 4-1. And it was just like, we're going to win. And it was such a wonderful feeling that this team has felt so rarely in matches when it's counted. So I'm choosing to take that moment as like the kind of the high point of the year. as well as obviously Luquinhas earning that late pen in Nashville on decision day and Tolkien converting. Just bonkers.
For me, my takeaway from the Cincy game was I came home the most hated man on Twitter. I feel like I really, really became something that day. Like, unless you have haters and trolls and people calling you a dumb, fat, I'm not even can't even say it on the podcast. That is what, you put a smile on my face when I came home. So I have like Twitter trolls now from Cincinnati who comment on everything I posted. It's fantastic. So I love the people down there in Cincinnati.
Did it start with the Miazga red card? I think it started right after that, if you correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it started after the Miazga red card and the apologist saying he was blowing kisses to say thank you to Red Bull. But anyway, let's get back on track here. Overperformer, I do want to finish with one of my own. For me, that's going to be Frankie Amaya. Frankie Amaya's career arc has just been weird. 2018 or 19, first overall pick. He was supposed to be the number 10 to take Cincinnati to the promised land. Ends up spoon after spoon. He gets sent out pretty unceremoniously and revives his career as kind of a defensive midfielder with Red Bulls. Not something I knew he was capable of doing. Still, he had 5 goals last season, so he did contribute from the back. $1 million Garber bucks for this guy, and he's going to be, a pretty much everyday starter. And he, like I said, his career from Cincy, you could tell the Cincy fans were booing him all through the playoff series. Every time he touched the ball, there is so much hate for that man around Major League Soccer. And if he could be producing in what was not supposed to be a natural position for him, then that's got to be my overperformer of the year.
Well, I think the hate for him from Cincinnati fans comes naturally, right? Because he left. He wanted to leave, and apparently he left without thanking the fans. And so they have continuous beef with Amaya from there. But going back to your earlier point, Bob, talk to me when you have haters and trolls within your own team's fan base, because that's really that means you really made it. When you have to use that block button liberally. With people that you at one point were friendly with because of some bizarre internet beef, that's how you know you made it. But I like the choice of Amaya. I think he leveled up really nicely last year. I think Andres Reyes really matured last year and kind of made this step from young player to now he's a full international. He's starting to get looks with the Colombian national team. I think he's looked pretty good. I think, I'm just kind of moving myself around the
Edelman was a surprise.
Yeah, I think Edelman stood out for sure. I mean, the US U20 team captain continues to grow. He's still really young, but I think he moved forward as well. So sure.
Let's get into some of the off-season moves, because here it's time to turn the page on 2023. That is all behind us. It's time for some 2024 talk. Incoming players, you got the big number 10, Emil Forsberg. This is, our first true number 10 in Red Bull land in quite a few years. If you want to just recap his career very quickly, because it is a long and storied career. He moved to Malmo for his age 20 and 21 seasons, won Sweden twice when he was there, represented the Swedish national team in the 2018 World Cup, and scored a goal against Switzerland in that tournament. 10 seasons for Red Bull Leipzig, including the 2015-2016 promotion year. He had 8 Bundesliga seasons. In those 8 seasons, 40 goals and 40 assists in top-flight German soccer, with teams that are finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th place each and every year. I think this is just a huge piece, and when you add that age and experience in a position of need with the kids and the young roster we have around it, I think Emil Forsberg is going to be an absolute home run hit.
Yeah, that's a baseball term, but I would say he is definitely the best player that the Red Bulls have had on the squad since Thierry Henry. He certainly is the most pedigreed Champions League player for many, many years. Seems to have the right attitude. Hit a worldie the other day against New England. The unquestionable leader of the team. It's not yet been announced whether Sean Nealis is going to give up the captaincy to Forsberg. I see it happening. I think it makes a ton of sense. I don't think Nealis is a guy that's going to take issue with that. Yeah, I mean, I think looking at the list of players you have here, Bob, I think Red Bull fans are asking, and because I think what we heard from Jochen Schneider at the end of last year, both in press and also in statements that he made, that they recognize that the team has been kind of flailing about for the last 5 seasons, and they're really going to go for it. And the season's less than a month away now, and I think they need 1 or 2 more pieces, kind of in a similar vein. Maybe, I mean, 1 more. They have 1 open DP spot. So I think Red Bull fans are certainly happy with Forsberg, but they're not necessarily seeing the massive investment that they were promised yet.
Absolutely. I agree with that. But when I look at this roster, like, there's one glaring hole. And you can say we can upgrade on defense, and that's absolutely true. We can get a depth guy like Juan Mina, the right back, 19-year-old Colombian, who's going to sit behind Kyle Duncan, bring that strength and energy off the bench, which is a move I really like. The center back, Noah Isle, I believe it's pronounced.
Ayla, yeah. Yep.
Nowhere close. Noah Ayla, who we looked at him. He's one of the new young guys in town. He's also Swedish, also played for Malmo, although much more recently. Has $1.5 million market value, 21 years old, 6'5" center back, and he plays for the Sweden under-21 team. That's going to be a really nice depth piece in this 5-man back line. I think that he's going to fit in there. Whenever I see center back and 6'5", I love that. I love my big boys back there.
Size, yeah.
And the key is 5, yeah, the key is that the kid can play with his feet, apparently, because as we know, if the Red Bull way demands anything, it's center backs that can play basically up at midfield and really spark those attacks. And so I don't know if I see a 5-man back line. I think Ayla is right now CB3 behind both Sean Nealis and Andres Reyes. Reyes may be gone for all of Copa America this summer for that tournament. So I think it's important. I mean, he's really young. He's younger than Aiden O'Connor, the center back that Red Bulls drafted out of the University of Virginia, who is also, I believe he's 6'3", and also, to the surprise of no one, good with his feet. So I think that those are center backs 3 and 4. Dylan Nealis can sub in a pinch as well in the center back role. So I think it'll be interesting to see how much first team time Ayla gets during his first year here.
Love it. Now, Fred says, feelings on Red Bulls losing Luquinhas. Well, that's next up because there were a few players that have left. Luquinhas is one of them, sold to Brazilian Serie A team Fortaleza. Then you have Caceres, sold to France. Tom Barlow to Chicago. Good luck. Have fun with him. Just what Chicago needs, another striker who can't put the ball in the back of the net. You have Drew Yearwood headed to Nashville. That kind of stings a little bit because I saw Drew Yearwood as a very talented, very physical player who just didn't quite fit the system. I want to see him really succeed in Nashville like so many other Red Bulls have once they've left our squad. And then you have Omir Fernandez headed over to Colorado. Usually I would ask which one of these hurts, and I don't think it's any of them. Luquinhas was part of a section earlier that we kind of scratched for time, which was called underwhelming player of last season with, I think, 3 goals, 3 assists out of a DP contract. Mm-hmm. What do we think?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Forsberg for Luquinhas is a win for the Red Bulls, so that's the way I'm looking at it that way. Again, Luquinhas showed signs, potential, just some things just did not click sometimes. For me, he dove a little too much toward the end of his career, toward the end of his Red Bull tenure, even though he did get that penalty kick in Nashville to get us into the playoffs. He wanted to go home to Brazil. He's never played in Brazil, my understanding. That was one of his dreams, so he got an offer. You can't blame the guy for going. Again, as a DP in his league, if you look at the statistics, he did not really produce goal-wise or assist-wise. That's going to sting a little bit. So we have an open DP spot. Hopefully the Red Bulls will look forward to an attacking option. I do believe that's the hole they need, whether it's center forward or attacking midfield on the other side of forwards or something like that. They definitely need one more offensive piece, in my opinion, to be trophy hunting.
Yeah, I'll agree with Alex on Luquinhas, Bob.
I know it, I can hear it in my head. It's my tongue that can't say it. It's like, like the block. I know how it's supposed to be pronounced. This doesn't work.
Okay. For me, I think Castros was a huge loss during the middle of the season. I think it was right for him to make the jump to Toulouse. He's been very successful, which is great to see. I don't think New York is going to miss Yearwood. Here's a guy that came here as a 6. He fell so far down the depth chart that Troy Lesesne was using him as a 10 late in the season, and he's not that. He's a lovely, lovely guy, and I really will miss him because he always was very up and always had a smile on his face and a really great guy. But again, did not deliver the goods. And I mean, I'm going to miss Omir Fernandez because this is the only club he's ever played for up until now, and he always came up so big. When he played in the Bronx, his home borough, or played NYCFC, a lot of goals. And at a time when the team was really struggling to find the back of the net, the homegrown was able to put stuff in. He's got a new opportunity with Chris Armas out in Colorado, and they're a really interesting team in 2024. So, but I think if I had to pick one, it'd be Castros on that list. And I wish Tom Barlow absolutely nothing but the best. I mean, again, a terrific guy. I wish him success. He just clearly couldn't do it in the system that New York was playing here. And unfortunately, he became that guy, right? He became the guy that the fans leaned on incredibly hard. It was Alex Muil before him, and then it shifted to Barlow. And there's always one player that gets the ire of the fans. And it was hard to watch sometimes, him missing opportunities. And
he needs that Brian White redemption where he just find a Canadian club to score 10 goals for year after year. Just put Ryan Gold next to him and you'll be set. Scott, I want to get your opinion on this just because you are, an objective MLS
I'm a neutral
viewer. Were there any losses there? Can you see any of these guys like Tom Barlow, Drew Yearwood, Omir Fernandez, like doing anything in any other clubs here?
Yeah, I can actually. I really can. And I want to kind of bring up 2 points to that question. So the first off is in terms of Red Bull land, I just want to point out that from our graphic of 2023 contributors, 3 of the players from that graphic are outgoing players. It's nearly half. Half of your top contributors are going. That really says reset. And they're not, none of these are like big contributors, right? Tom Barlow's,
they combined for 12 goals. Yes.
Yeah. Tom Barlow's, 5 goals and, he's tied with Frankie Amaya and, number 1 is Manuel with 6. So it's whatever, but that's still half of your contributors. Okay. So with that said, Luquinhas is off to Fortaleza. They're a good team. I see Luquinhas kind of kicking off, but he's going to do it outside of the MLS. So we're going to kind of put that off to one side. But I can see all of these guys succeeding in their respective places. The guy I look at kind of the most right now is Omir Fernandez.
I agree.
It's that really interesting project in Colorado. Colorado does this once every 5 years. They just put together a team and they go on a tear and they're really, really good. And I could see somebody like Omir Fernandez really filling a hole for them and popping off and being a player that starts to generate a lot of national attention. Right.
The one thing I like about
when that
Omir
happens,
Fernandez,
don't feel bad. It's just I think some players just need to move to get that.
I agree with Omir Fernandez in the fact that, in this system, he had to run. He had to run 90 minutes in every game. And what is Colorado's strength? Playing at altitude and running other teams' legs off. I would be interested to see what he has. Before we move on, and next we're going to touch on the depth chart, a little bit about the formation switches that might be pulled a little bit later. Let's go into the chat because there's quite a few people here. Drew says, I read a reporter say, don't be surprised to see Red Bulls sign a few more players before season starts. Any ideas, Mark, who that will be? Also, will Corey Burke rebound this year? I believe Burke is not practicing. I believe he has quite a bad injury.
Yeah, he's got a knock, and he hasn't played yet during the preseason, and so we'll see. Listen, in a world of possible player additions, I can't provide you with any clear cut targets. There was a rumor last week that New York was circling around Carlos Carrizo, the DP6 who plays in San Jose. It was, friend of the show, Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst, that noted that there were a couple more signings coming for New York. That doesn't mean big signings, but that does mean, signings. I think it's also important to note, and while we haven't seen Lewis Morgan, Scott, the MLS.
I'm sorry. It just slipped out. No. I apologize.
Yeah.
It's because I went skiing yesterday and I got so much sun because it was really, really warm. I'm ill. I apologize to everybody. I'll go run some laps or something to pay for it.
It's fine. Okay. Wash your mouth out with soap. We have to consider, though, that Lewis Morgan, if in fact he's healthy, and he has not yet played a single minute during the preseason, if he comes back and is able to contribute, it's almost like getting a brand new player back on the field that can make a massive difference. And so while I am not overjoyed with what we've seen from Schneider so far, this isn't the massive window for European players, right? This is the middle of their season. And so he may say, let's look at the first 10 games, or let's look at the first third of the field, and let's figure it out and see exactly what we need to add. The fact that they're starting the season without a third DP, though, not great, Bob, not great.
Thank you. I know. And let's talk a little bit about formation, tactics, stuff like that. This is a Red Bull team, so it's about press, energy drink ball, as much as, I remember Jesse Marsh almost got crucified when he said that during a press conference during that kit release party over at, where was that? The old concert venue in New York City. Do you remember that night?
He said it at the town hall when he was introduced, and he said it after, why did you fire Mike Petke? He literally said, this is an energy drink. And people it was like such the wrong thing to say. Like, it was the first thing he said, this is an energy drink. And everyone was like, oh, buddy.
I wonder how many of those people would take him back tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very interesting. Okay.
For sure.
Let's talk about this now. This energy drink football, high press, get the ball in your opponent's end, forwards pressing, attacking players with stronger defensive duties. The system is supposed to be a 4-2-2-2. However, with Duncan and Tolkien, sometimes they're better at wing backs. I do like when we go out with 5 men in the back. It kind of happened out of necessity a few times last season, but here is what we think our best 11 is. 4-2-2-2 up top, Van Zier and Manuel, and those are really the two positions that could really use some reinforcements. You have Goma and Burke somewhere down the depth chart there. Obviously, Burke still hurt. I would not expect him for quite some time. Then behind them, you have Emil Forsberg and Lewis Morgan. I kind of put them as those attacking midfielders. Forsberg could slot in as a natural 10 with a 5-man back line or a 3-man midfield, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at times, and that both of these players have a lot of fluidity on the field. In best scenarios, these players line up like this for kickoffs and goal kicks, and then after that, they're on someone else. Talk about this attack, Mark, and what do you see here?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing will be what formation will help Dante Van Zier become the player that we all want him to be, right? We know he's not a stand-up holding 9 who's going to turn and fire the way that BWP was, or the way that someone at one point hoped that Tom Barlow would be. I think the question is, how can Van Zier and Manuel, if in fact he is in form and kind of starting the hockey stick part of his career, what is the interplay going to be between them to unlock defenses, with Forsberg funneling into the middle? I mean, Lewis played on the other side when he was healthy.
Yes.
I would like to think that perhaps the two of them are a little interchangeable. And as long as Tolkien's here, he was the leading assist man on the team last year. So as long as he can get up, obviously there wasn't a player of Forsberg's stature or ability last year. And then Kyle, I mean, Kyle continues to contribute, I think, in an attack more so, frankly, than in defense. It'll be interesting to see. You have Harper here as a backup 6. I think he's Lewis Morgan's backup on the schematic here. I don't think he's playing there. I mean, he continues. It's going to be really hard for a player like Harper to find minutes on this team, which is a real shame. I think he's the guy that's going to be, coming in at the 75th minute to try and spell try to hit tired defenses. Yeah, but I mean, this to me looks like the starting lineup. And I think at a time when, like you said, Bob, they were tied for the second best defense in the league last year, and you're bringing everybody back. That's terrific. I think the real challenge is going to be with the front 4 or 6 players and how they interplay to create goal scoring opportunities.
Now, not that these stats are absolutely perfect, but from what I'm seeing here, we started with a 3 or 5 man back line about 8 times last season, and the most common formation was actually a 4-2-3-1 that they started on paper. However, we did not have Lewis Morgan. There were holes all over the field at certain points, so best made plans are what you're seeing right now, and who knows if we get the best 11 at any point in any season. I mean, that's just the truth about soccer. Back line, I love Tolkien and Duncan on the outside, Nealis and Reyes. We talked about them a little bit, but we do have a question here, and let me go back to the chat a little bit because someone wants to know, do you think Kyle Duncan will be good enough for us to make a deep run? He seemed weak at the end of last year. Kyle Duncan did make some really bad plays in that Cincinnati series. I think in the last goal he gave up, he missed a header by 4 feet and let the opposing team run down the field. Did not bring glory to his name at the end of last season, which is strange because he was one of the players on the up and up for a lot of the year. So what do you think about Duncan this year?
So I want to jump in. I've got my thoughts, but I'm talking.
Well, just like Mark said, offensively as a right back, not bad. Defensively, needs work. He gets burnt a little too often for my liking as a right back, but the Red Bull system, the way they press to attack on when they take a loose ball on a turnover, the way he can fly down the right wing, not as good as John Toga, but he does have some offensive abilities as a right back. That's the Red Bull way. That's why I think we keep bringing him back. We may load him out or send him out. We keep bringing him. We cannot find someone better than Kyle Duncan who seems to play that right back in the system they want to play. My question is, I have another tangent off this. What do you guys think, to all of you, the difference between Schwartz and our previous Red Bull coaches? Do you think the philosophy will change much, or do you think it's going to be the same high press, blah, blah, blah? This is how it's going to be. Does Schwartz have any wrinkles, do you think, for us this year? Are we going to be the same kind of Red Bull high press? Everyone knows what's coming when they play us.
Well, I think given everything that we've seen out of the preseason. Oh, wait, we haven't seen anything out of the preseason because not a single minute of any preseason game has been shared with anybody. Now, we're going to have the opportunity when the team plays in Coachella. Apparently, St. Louis is going to be broadcasting their game, and the LA Galaxy will be broadcasting their game with the Red Bulls, and we'll actually have a chance to see. Also, next Friday, this Friday, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions of Sandro Schwartz for the first time since he arrived with the team. So I think it remains to be seen. I mean, it's really too soon to say, and unfortunately, I haven't done my Hertha Berlin.
Me either. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, every Red Bull coach has their own different wrinkle. I'll finish with that. Let's go.
I was looking into Sandro Schwartz kind of before we started here and looking into his history. It's not like a super incredible history. He has some reasonable success at Mainz. He has some reasonable success in Moscow. And then his Hertha Berlin, episode is only like 29 games long. And he gets fired, but they were kind of in a bad spot. So that's Bundesliga. The fact that he is able to take some of those teams at that level, I think coming to Major League Soccer, he still has plenty of good opportunity signs to be something, and be totally fine with Red Bull. I don't think there's any reason to to think, oh, this, he can't be successful. That's not true.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Red Bulls would have hired him if he would not adopt at least part of the Red Bull philosophy.
I agree. And I also don't think
that
he would have been. I don't think we should judge him based on being like that relegation coach who got his team sent down. I think that's a tired perspective. Like, he was sent on the worst team in the league in order to maybe try something. But we do have to move on. 2024 storylines, and we have a question right here. Will Van Zier score 13.5 goals this season?
Somebody's on FanDuel. Somebody's on FanDuel trying taking the over/under. That's for sure. You can see that a mile away.
I don't
know is the great answer, actually.
I'll take this. I'm gonna take the under on this. You ask for 13.5. That's if you want 14 for Van Zier. You're asking for a lot. I'm gonna take the under on this one.
I think it's possible.
It's possible for sure, but I'm just I'm just gonna take the under.
There's no information that would provide any sort of basis for making an educated decision. So, other than, maybe I really have no idea. We have to see how he and Forsberg are able to work together.
Other questions for the 2024, and these are like kind of the biggest storylines around the team. Can Red Bull get production from a center forward? I guess those are two very closely related questions. You even said at the beginning that he's not like a turn your back and shoot guy. I don't think we even know that much about him, to be honest. When he came in, didn't catch ride with the team, big suspension, that whole fiasco. There's no way you come back at 100% confidence after getting, knocked down like that. And then there were, I don't think he had any major injuries, but like little tweaks here and there where he missed some time. I don't know what to expect, and that is I guess that's maybe why I'm optimistic. That's why Alex is pessimistic and I'm optimistic. Same reason, but different outcomes there.
Yeah, I mean, he was hurt pretty badly at the end of the season. He got high load on a tackle and fell from a height onto his lower back, and he missed the last, I think, 3 or 4 games and the playoffs. So, and if it's not him, can Elias show everyone? He told our friend Gustavo Guimaraes, like, I really, I feel like I've done enough to get the support of the fans. And it's like, well, we just have to see it consistently. And if he comes out and scores 10 goals, as I think I may have said earlier, then he will absolutely get the success, the support of the fans. Yeah, I mean, I think it's all potential. I think I'm going to say that, yes, the Red Bulls will get production from one or more center forwards this year, simply with the addition of such a crafty veteran player like Forsberg. I think it's going to have to get better. I think it will get better because, after such a meaningful upgrade, if it doesn't get better, we're all going to be, watching Gotham every week exclusively. So.
Can Red Bull continue their consecutive playoff streak? Now, this is a tough question. This was written before there were 9 playoff teams out of 15 that made it in each and every year. Yes, right? We're making the playoffs.
Yes.
I'd say we will.
Completely different question. Can Red Bull compete for silverware in 2024? If we're talking about a tournament trophy or a MLS Cup, what went right for that to happen?
Injury-free. First thing.
Injury-free and injury-full contender issues. And I think they will need a tremendous amount of luck to truly compete for silverware. I think 2024 for New York will be about moving back to the second tier of MLS teams, kind of that 8 to 12, 8 to 15 range. It's definitely the top half of the league, but unless we are shocked by a major signing that Schwartz pulls, that Schneider pulls off, I just think there's so much firepower at the top of the league, and we haven't talked about Miami in this podcast, so I'm going to do it. I mean, I just think I think everyone else is clearly playing for second place this year, unless Suarez's knees legs actually break in two, and the South Florida Heat wilts them, and Copa America, and everything else that's going on. So
we talked about that. We had Inter Miami on as our first preview this season, and I think we don't think they're going to finish in first place. I think they're going to win.
Not for the Supporters Shield.
I think they're going to win the CCL, the trophy that they have there. I think they're going to win Open Cup if they're allowed to compete. I think they're going to go after every other trophy, including MLS Cup. But you don't need to be in first place to win MLS Cup. And I just don't see them playing 55 games this season with a bunch of 35-year-olds and ending up in first place. And not because that's not their priority. A Shield isn't a real trophy. I know that's going to be very controversial on a Red Bull podcast. A Shield isn't a real trophy. Let's move on, and I guess we're just going to finish up. Anything that we haven't talked about yet, any players maybe that are going to have an impact. One player I'm keeping a good eye on is Julian Hall. I know he's only 15 years old, to be 16 sometime this season, but he got 10 minutes at the end of last year, and he's been I think he's looked good in preseason. He's been on the score sheet twice with a goal and an assist. Anyone that we haven't talked about yet that's going to play a part in 2024?
I think that the bigger storyline here, or one storyline we haven't touched on, is whether Tolkien stays for the year. And
Sure.
If he is sold at the mid-year window, which I feel pretty good that he will, because he's still eyeing a spot, although he's down on the depth chart for the USA for 2026, which it means he has to go. I think the question then becomes, is it Mina behind him coming up? Is it a Curtis Ofori who's starting to work their way closer to the first team? Who is really going to be the answer at left back for New York when Tolkien goes? Because I really think he's leveled out of the league. Down the stretch last year, he was bossing the games that he was in, and it was like playing on God mode. I mean, he just was transcendent in terms of his ability to get around players and feed balls in. He was playing with so much confidence. It was great to see, but he's got to go. So I think that's a big storyline. I think can Amaya and Edelman continue to grow into their roles? And I think Alex said it earlier, injuries and staying injury free is going to be really important for them because they were so decimated last year.
Mark, always a great time when you join us. Mark Fishkin from the Seeing Red podcast. One more time, let us know where you can find your work.
Yes, I'm the quixotically named Mark Fishkin on Twitter. You can find me there. Also, the podcast Seeing Red NY on just about every platform you got. We're here on the YouTube as well. And for the first time in 2024. And guys, love what you do. Thank you for having me. It starts real soon. We're only a couple of weeks away. And then it's going to be, like old times. It's going to be super fun to watch another season with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time out on a Monday. Now, this is not the end of our podcast night. We have Atlanta United and St. Louis City also being previewed. That is going to be at 8:45 and at 9:30. So join us, i80sports.com, youtube.com/i80sports, or head over to Twitter. We'll be doing it all night with great guests. Thank you, guys. Have a great night.